I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this on a public forum, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I just found out my wife, Emily, was sleeping with our best friend, Jake, right before our wedding. Yeah, I know, it sounds like some bad soap opera plot, but this is real life, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. We'd been together for about 3 years, and I genuinely thought we had something solid. She was the kind of girl who acted like she was perfect. Bitchy, yes, but also charming and confident. She always knew how to push my buttons, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Our relationship wasn't perfect, sure. We had our fights, mostly over trivial stuff, but nothing that seemed like it could blow up in my face like this. Lately, though, she'd been acting weird. She'd cancel plans last minute, started working late more often, and I'd catch her glancing at her phone more than usual. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured she was just stressed out with work or something. Tell me she was just tired or overwhelmed. Whenever I asked if something was wrong, tell me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that she loved me and wouldn't do anything to hurt me. But I felt like I was losing her little by little. Then 2 nights ago, I decided to check her phone while she was in the shower. I know, big mistake, but I just had this gut feeling. Maybe it was insecurity, maybe it was intuition, I don't know. I wasn't snooping to find something specific. I just wanted to see if she was texting anyone she shouldn't be. And what I found was worse than I ever could have imagined. There were messages, dozens of them, between her and Jake. Not just friendly banter or harmless stuff, but flirtatious, intimate messages that made my stomach turn. They were talking like they had some secret world just for themselves. She called him babe, and he called her sweetheart. There were plans to meet up, excuses made for why they couldn't see each other, but it was clear they'd been more than friends for a while. The worst part, she was trying to hide it. There were even deleted messages. I managed to recover from her cloud backup, and they confirmed everything. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it all. How long has this been going on? Did I mean nothing? Was I just some fool who thought we had something real? My chest was tight, my hands trembling as I stared at the screen. I kept telling myself I was overthinking, maybe misreading signals. But the evidence was there, plain as day. Emily was cheating on me with Jake, our best friend, and I had no idea how to process that. It was all too much to handle, and I just sat there, frozen, staring at those messages, trying to figure out what my next move should be. After I found out, I didn't sleep that night. I just kept staring at her phone, reading those messages over and over, trying to convince myself I was crazy or mistaken somehow. But every word, every flirty emoji, every "can't wait to see you tonight" hammered into me how much I'd been blind, how much I'd trusted her. The next morning, I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't live in this fog anymore. I woke her up at 7 a.m. and she looked surprised, annoyed even, when I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand. She tried to brush it off, saying I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, or that I just misunderstood her, that she was stressed, that she loved me, and that I was making a big deal out of nothing. But I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. I told her I knew everything. Her face twisted in that typical bitchy way she always did when she was trying to act innocent but knew she was caught. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and started lying right there, saying they were just talking about work, about stress, about how she was feeling overwhelmed. She said Jake was just a friend, that I was crazy for jumping to conclusions, that I was imagining things, that I was insecure. She even had the nerve to call me jealous and say I was reading too much into it. I lost it then. I told her I saw the texts, that I read her fucking messages, and I wasn't stupid. Her reaction. She got defensive, raised her voice, told me I was a crazy, possessive asshole. She said I had no right to accuse her, especially over some stupid texts, and that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. Honestly, at that moment, I wanted to shake her. How could she be so flipping indifferent, so dismissive of what she did? She kept insisting it was nothing, just stress, confusion, that it meant nothing, that I was overreacting because I was insecure. She said she loved me, that she was sorry I found out this way, but she'd never cheat on me. I told her I didn't believe her anymore. I told her I didn't know who she was, that she was the one lying to my face, hiding things, betraying everything we'd built. She tried to convince me to forgive her, said it was just a one-time mistake, that it was a stupid mistake she made because she was under pressure. She cried, she begged, she swore it was over, that it was all a mistake. But I just sat there, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. How do you forgive someone who lied to your face and cheated with your best friend? How do you even look at her the same way again? I felt so betrayed, so humiliated. I didn't even know what to say anymore. All I knew was that my world had flipped upside down in less than a day, and I was left with this gnawing emptiness, this awful truth. After that confrontation, everything changed. I felt like I was floating outside my own body, watching myself go through the motions, but inside I was shattered. I didn't want to believe it was true, but every part of me knew I couldn't unsee what I'd found. She kept saying she was sorry, that it was a mistake, that she loved me, but her words just sounded hollow. It was like empty promises from someone who knew she'd already crossed the line. I told her I needed time to think, but honestly, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Part of me wanted to scream at her, to tear her apart for what she'd done. The other part was just numb. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, missed how she was sneaking around, how she was lying so effortlessly. I thought I knew her, but I guess I never really did. She was always so bitchy, so sharp-tongued, but I never thought she'd be capable of betraying me with someone we both trusted. That night was the worst. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head. The way she'd looked at Jake, the way she'd lied so easily, how she'd said she loved me right before she was cheating on me. I felt so angry and so hurt, but also a strange sense of clarity. I realized I couldn't stay with her anymore. Not after she'd lied so blatantly. I had to face the fact that she was a different person than I thought, and I wasn't sure I even wanted to keep pretending things were okay. The next day, I started digging deeper. I needed proof, more details, something concrete to decide what was next. I went through her phone again, looking for anything I might have missed, trying to read between the lines. That's when I noticed how dismissive she was during some of our conversations, how she'd brushed off my concerns with a snarky attitude. It made me realize she didn't even care about how much she was hurting me. She was so used to lying, so comfortable with it, that she probably didn't even realize how much damage she'd done. I also found out that she'd been sneaking out late at night, claiming she was working late, but she was really meeting Jake. There were texts about avoiding suspicion, cover stories, and how she was so sick of hiding. That was the moment I knew she'd been lying to me for months. I felt a wave of disgust and disappointment. I'd always thought she was the strong, bitchy girl who knew what she wanted. Turns out she was just reckless and selfish. All this was swirling in my mind, and I felt like I was drowning. I couldn't trust her anymore. I felt like I'd been played, like I was some fool who loved someone who never really loved me back. I was furious, but I also felt broken. I started questioning everything about our relationship, about who she was, about what I thought I knew. It was like waking up from a nightmare you can't escape. I knew I had to decide quickly, either confront her again and demand answers or cut my losses and walk away. But deep down, I knew I wasn't going to forgive her. Not after she lied so blatantly, not after she sneered at me when I tried to get the truth. This was about more than just cheating. It was about betrayal at a fundamental level, and I wasn't sure I could come back from it. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of clarity. Every time I thought I was starting to feel better, a new detail would surface and drag me right back down. I felt like I was losing my mind. The betrayal cut so deep, it was like someone had taken everything I believed about my life and just shattered it into 1,000 pieces. I started avoiding her, staying out late and trying to keep my distance. I couldn't stand to see her bitchy smirk or hear her dismissive tone anymore. Honestly, I felt disgusted just being around her. How could she look me in the eye and lie so effortlessly? How did I miss all the signs? I felt stupid, naive even, but mostly I just felt betrayed by her. By Jake, by my own foolish heart. One night I finally sat her down again. I told her I couldn't do this anymore, that I needed to know if she really cared about us or if she was just some selfish girl who got off on lying and cheating. Her reaction was exactly what I expected. She rolled her eyes, sneered at me, and started flipping the script. She told me I was making a big deal out of nothing, that I was insecure, that I was overreacting because I couldn't handle her success and independence. She called me jealous and possessive, like it was all my fault. She tried to turn it around, making me question myself. "You're just insecure because Jake is better looking than you," she said with that bitchy tone she had. "Maybe if you weren't so paranoid, I wouldn't have to look elsewhere for validation." That words like that just made me feel even worse, like I was some loser who didn't deserve her. I was so angry I couldn't even speak. I wanted to hurt her, wanted her to feel how much she had broken me. But I knew I had to stay. Composed, I told her that I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine, because it was, that I deserved better than a wife who cheated with my best friend. I told her I was done, that I was going to leave. And then she just laughed. Not a normal laugh, but this cold, bitter laugh that made my skin crawl. She said, "Good luck finding someone better. You're not so special, Mike. I'll do whatever I want with whoever I want, and you can't stop me." That was the moment I realized I was dealing with someone truly toxic, someone who didn't care about me at all, someone who thought she could just cheat, lie, and manipulate her way through life with no consequences. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut again, but this time I knew I'd had enough. I told her I was leaving, that I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. She just shrugged and went back to ignoring me like I was already out of her life. That night I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling empty. I knew I'd made my decision, but it didn't make the pain any easier. I'd trusted her so much. I thought she was my future, but now I realized she was just a stranger in disguise, someone who lied and betrayed everything I believed in. I'd always thought we had something real, but now I saw she was just a bitchy, selfish girl who only cared about herself, and Jake, apparently. And honestly, that realization hurt more than anything. The betrayal was so deep, so raw, I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. After I decided I was done, I knew I had to act fast. The thought of staying under the same roof with her, knowing what she'd done, was unbearable. I packed a bag that night, just a few essentials, clothes, some personal stuff, and left without saying much. I didn't even tell her I was going. I just needed to get out, to clear my head, and to find some space from her venomous attitude. The first few days were brutal. I stayed with a buddy, trying to figure out what to do next. Every time I closed my eyes, her face would pop up, sneering, dismissing my feelings, that cold, bitchy look she always gave me when she thought she was smarter. It ate me up inside. I kept replaying the betrayal over and over, wondering how I missed the signs, how I let her get so close and then shatter everything with a few simple lies. What hurt most was realizing that I'd been so blind. I'd always thought she was strong, independent, that she knew what she wanted, but behind all that bitchiness was someone capable of the coldest betrayal. She lied to my face, dismissed my feelings, and even tried to turn it around like I was the problem. The worst, I saw her with Jake one last time, at a bar, laughing, touching each other like they didn't have a care in the world. That moment hit me hard. It confirmed that I was just a pawn in her game, someone she used and then discarded like trash. All those years of trust, of believing in her, just evaporated. I couldn't bear the thought of her pretending everything was fine, that she was the victim. It made me furious, furious at her, at Jake, and even at myself for ever trusting her with my heart. I knew I had to come up with a plan, not just to heal, but to make her understand she couldn't get away with what she'd done. I started talking to some friends, getting advice, trying not to lose my mind. One thing was clear: I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I needed proof, a way to make her see she'd crossed a line she'd never come back from if she even cared about that. The idea of revenge started to take shape. I didn't want to just walk away empty-handed. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused, to realize that her actions had consequences. I didn't plan to do anything reckless, but I knew I had to make her see that I wasn't going to be some doormat, that I wasn't going to sit around and let her treat me like shit. And so, I started gathering more evidence. Hidden recordings, more screenshots of texts, things I could use if I decided to confront her again or even hold her accountable. I also reached out to Jake, just to get a sense of his side of things, but honestly, I didn't want to hear his excuses. I was already too angry, too betrayed. I knew this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about who she was, selfish, manipulative, a real bitch who thought she could get away with anything. Every day, I felt a mixture of anger and sadness. I was so pissed she'd done this, but I also mourned the fact that I'd lost the woman I thought I knew. I kept asking myself how I let this happen, how I was so blind to her true nature. But I also knew I had to take control of my life again. I had to figure out whether I wanted to fight for her or if I was better off walking away for good. Either way, I wasn't going to let her control me anymore. This was just the beginning of my revenge, and I was determined to make her regret what she'd done. In the end, I chose to walk away for good. After everything, her lies, the betrayal, the way she dismissed my feelings, I realized I couldn't keep pretending that I was okay. I sent her a final message, one that laid everything out. How I saw through her lies, how I knew about the affair, and that I was done wasting my time on someone who didn't respect or love me. I told her she had no one to blame but herself for losing me, for destroying what little trust we had left. Since then, I've been trying to rebuild myself. It's not easy seeing her with Jake. Knowing she lied so effortlessly still stings. But I refuse to let her define my happiness anymore. I realized I deserved better, that I was worth someone who wouldn't cheat, who wouldn't lie, who wouldn't treat me like I was disposable. What I've learned from this mess is that you can't ever fully trust someone who shows you their true colors through lies and manipulation. You have to protect yourself, listen to your gut, and not ignore the signs, even if they come in bitchy, dismissive comments or late-night texts you don't want to see. Because in the end, that's what costs you your peace, your happiness, and maybe even your self-respect. So, to anyone out there dealing with something similar, trust your instincts. Don't dismiss the little red flags, no matter how much you want to believe they're just stress or miscommunication. Because when someone shows you who they truly are, the best thing you can do is believe them. And walk away before you get further hurt. It's going to hurt, yeah, it's going to suck. But in the long run, you're better off alone than with someone who doesn't respect you enough to be honest. This whole experience has been a brutal lesson, but I guess I needed it. Now, I'm focusing on myself, on healing, and on making sure I never let someone betray me like that again. Because I know my worth and I won't settle for anything less.